We are at 1 o'clock. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to welcome Shirley Bursama. Shirley has kindly agreed to speak to us today on putting together a YES committee, which is a very important component of your millage or your millage process. And she is a veteran millage queen for the state. She has worked with numerous libraries and consulting with them on their millage campaigns and their millage campaign committees. And she has been incredibly successful. And she has helped many, many libraries over many, many years get their millages. So Shirley is a longtime and former trustee for Kent District Library, including a former chair. She is a longtime library consultant, and she has worked with many boards on millage issues as well as on board issues. So I'm going to go ahead and give it to Shirley. Welcome, Shirley, and thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Claire. Appreciate the introduction. Some of you know me as the Millage Queen. I obtained that title some years back and carry it proudly. I was 25 years on KDL board, 32 years on the co-op board, 31 years at ALA. So I've been around a while. Does that say I'm old? Oh yeah, but that's okay. I eat, live, sleep, breathe libraries. And I love being able to help others obtain the reasons that they want to be a part of libraries. I appreciate the opportunity to share this creation of Yes Committee for millage campaigns, along with the job details of what each job is for on the Yes Committee. I've won 147 campaigns. I've never once done one without a Yes Committee. And so I would like to share with you some of the issues involved in organizing the Yes Committee to assist in winning the millage campaign that will go in front of the voters. When I get a phone call, could you help me with my millage? My pat answer is only if you promise me you'll win. So, and that means the Yes Committee. It all begins way back with the library board first putting together the details of having to have a millage campaign. It's either to renew a millage, about to retire, they want to do a new one. They need to have an increase in millage because the funds are not covering all the bases. There's a lot of reasons that a millage campaign is created. What is needed, timetable, how many years, ballot language needed to pass a millage, etc. But it is very important that all of this is done prior to putting together a Yes Committee. And once this is all passed by the board, then an attorney drafts the ballot language and verbiage to be voted on. The board passes a resolution and the ballot language will be submitted to the county clerk in a timetable and date determined when the millage will be on the ballot. Now, there's several dates that are available for millage campaigns. There's one coming up in May. There's one coming up in August, which we have like 11 of them right now on the books. And then there's another one in November. So according to these dates, then there's dates that the ballot language has to be submitted to the county clerk, et cetera, et cetera. So from there, then we discuss a Yes Committee. If they ask me to coach the campaign, that's where I come in. And the Yes Committee has been normally appointed by the board or people have volunteered. It is important that we have enough volunteers, and yet we want people that are a part of the community, a very integral part of the community, that have been included in the Yes Committee. In my case, I would meet with them, I'd bring them all packets, and we would go forward from there with what has to happen. The Yes Committee is just that. You can advocate yes on the ballot. You can advocate yes on a number of ways to put this together. The library is also very involved, but the library cannot advocate vote yes. However, they can do anything else. The size of the committee depends on the size of the library. Branches, number of voters, square mileage. It could be a district library. It could be a small township library. Any library that qualifies. I spend on location times that a Yes Committee hand out folders to them. I do all of this free, except for some mileage, but that's neither here nor there. We want this library to continue with all the services, with all the needs of the taxpayer involved, which is what the millage is for, or does. It is a request to the taxpayers to vote for, sometimes it's a renewal. Recently, there was one that did a cut in taxes, which will be for the next few years. There is some that need a just to get back the Headley Amendment that was taken from them. There are a number of reasons why the library, plus then their timetable is such that the millage has reached its destination and they need to go back to the taxpayers. And it's usually done the year that it ends, the last tax collection ends in that year, or it could be the following year. Some of them want to be very conservative, and so they go a year early. But there are a number of people involved in a Yes Committee. It cannot be only friends. Friends groups are also willing to be part of the Yes Committee. If you're a heavy ethnic population, someone from that group makes a great volunteer in the Yes Committee. There are homeschooler parents that are always willing to be on the Yes Committee. And usually the library knows all these people and can be in touch with them, ask them if they'd like to be a part of it. And so usually the director has some names that they may have asked in advance or they have already volunteered. But we, as a Yes Committee, would need those names. And of course, hopefully they have already volunteered. Board members can also be on the Yes Committee, but not be the treasurer. However, they could be chair. Legal counsel does not recommend treasurer to be a board member. Next, a chair should be chosen, also a secretary to keep the minutes. If I am the coach, I prefer to get the minutes after each meeting to make sure all is good. It is sometimes easy to sidetrack or get off the track. And if I have the minutes, I can say, excellent idea. I think I'll copy that the next time. Or, oh, no, we can't do that. That's not palatable. So we have to go back to the drawing board on that one. So this is putting the Yes Committee together. And what is involved, that the voters will learn from the Yes Committee. They'll get information. The absentee ballots go to the voters 45 days before the election. The Yes mailing want to emphasize the voter, go to the end of the ballot to vote for library. That is statewide. That is at the end of the ballot for libraries. And so we want the first mailing to go out before the absentee ballots go to the voters. And you can get those names and addresses from your township clerk, from your county clerk, to do a mailing. You can do postcards, you can do trifolds. In my case, I always provide ideas and samples to the Yes Committee to use. In the meantime, the Yes Committee is not only putting together the committee, but they are fundraising, which is very important that you, first of all, reach out to the large donors, that's businesses in the community. Sometimes the board members know so-and-so that know so-and-so that would be willing to contribute to a library. That is one of the main things that the Yes Committee is going to need to provide mailings, signs, etc. So in the meantime, everyone is fundraising and putting together money that will make their job easier. Make sure that the staff and board members, yes, volunteers, anyone can contribute to this event, which is very important. And some committees open PayPal, but remember they keep a percentage of the amount they hope to raise. One donor, if available, is always the Friends group. They're they usually donate right away, especially to open a checking account for the Yes Committee. Other things the Yes Committee can be involved in is if in the summer, parades, farmers markets, book sales, and of course the library can also do these things. However, the Yes Committee can have the material and signs saying, vote yes. Any questions along the way?
You
No,
have a question in chat asking whether the members of the Friends Committee have to be a registered voter or
no.
of the Yes Committee, sorry.
That we have, that's a good question. We have never talked that. I'm sure 90% of them are, maybe all of them are. But that's a great question that has never been asked before in all these years of doing that. I have never had that question, but I would think that they would be registered. In fact, we encourage the Yes Committee to set up a registration table if it's possible at one of the parades, at one of the book sales, to make sure that a lot of people do get registered. A lot of our ethnic groups are not registered. They want to vote for the library. The homeschoolers definitely can't get along without the library, so they want to make sure they're all registered. But no, I think that's an excellent question, and I appreciate it being asked.
If I think that if you have someone who for some reason can't be registered, if they're not a naturalized citizen or they're not, you could they could volunteer. But as far as being the actual committee, I posted the link to the ballot question committee information from the Secretary of State in the elections section at the state. I would take a look at that link and the ballot question committee manual to double check whether or not someone could be an officer or
Mhm.
the treasurer of the ballot committee and not be an, a registered voter. But I couldn't imagine why they couldn't be a volunteer.
Well, I would agree, Claire. I think that it would not be prudent for them to serve in one of the offices of the Yes Committee. You're right. But I do think as far as a volunteer, and there again, you're correct in why they might not be able to register or why they can't vote or don't vote. But it is, like I say, just an excellent question. After 22 years of doing this, it's It's,
You stumped Shirley. You should get a prize.
okay, we gotta find an answer to that one.
There's one more question. Can a library director's spouse serve on the Yes Committee's board?
If he is so committed to do that, oh, yes. And of course, the library director attends all these committee meetings also. And the language that is used on any mailings, any handouts by the Yes Committee comes from the library director. It is the same language she uses for the informational campaign, so that there's no discrepancy between the two groups. And but she attends. Very rarely do I have a director that thinks he or she should not be at that committee meeting. But no, it's their library, and they're the ones that will have input into how the Yes Committee is involved. And so, no, I really encourage the director to be a part of it. Also, the director is involved, and the chair of the Yes Committee and the chair of the library board are the ones that go to the different groups to share, along with handouts, to share what the library is asking in the way of a millage. You want it to be very transparent, but those three people should be the ones that call these different townships, call your school district, call your chamber, your Rotary, whatever organizations are involved, ask to be put on the agenda for maybe 3 minutes, and that you want to share what is and the time and the date when the election is going to be on the ballot. And you want them to, you're not going to ask them to send or to vote for a resolution or anything. We used to do that, and we haven't done that in quite a few years now. But it is important that they're made aware of. You encourage their support, of course. You want them on the voting side of the project, but it is important that they right away know that. Another thing is maybe in like the summer ones that I've got going, we encourage the Yes Committee to contact the school district. Could they send home a mailing with the younger kids, not the high school kids? I'll never get there, but and some do everything by email and letters to the parents, etc. There's some schools that will not encourage a yes vote, but they'll send the information home, which is fabulous. Anything to get it in the hands of the homeowner, or even, of course, the renters. Everybody can vote on this. So we encourage that hopefully the schools will participate. Some have it sent with their, in this case, summer taxes. If it's a fall one, with the winter taxes. Some have it sent with a water bill. I've heard of all of them for one reason or another that got the word out. And it will be just generic, and some will be from the Yes Committee. So we want also the Yes Committee to send letters to the editor if there is a paper available. I know in many instances that's not the case anymore, but we want that to go out. We encourage a honorary chair. This is somebody from the community that is very involved in the community, has big name recognition, that people look up to when they speak. I've gotten a few myself, and they'll say, "What's it going to cost me?" No, it's not going to cost you anything. Just write a letter to the editor, or let us use your name, or so on and so forth. But that is the last few years, we've been really encouraging honorary chairs, and they do seem to make a difference. It's, well, if they believe in it, then it's okay. That type of respect for the person who's the honorary chair. But anyway, wherever there is a uh, committee, the committee should be involved, like the sign committee is one of the biggest ones. I'm a big advocate for street signs. I think they do so much good. And most yes committees are too. It depends again on the funding. We always have to remember the funding that goes into these things. The funding on signs, it's the yes committee's um, prerogative to try to collect signs from prior candidates, party candidates, if they aren't going to use them anymore. The signs don't cost that much, it's the wires. And so the yes committee is very involved in collecting wires ahead of time from candidates. None of this can be stored at the library. We have to make sure the yes committee is very clear on that. No paperwork can be stored at the library with yes on. No funding can be used for papers being printed at the library. We have to be very careful that there is a distinct line between the library and the yes committee. But one of them is the signs. They can be ordered ahead of time, stored in somebody's garage. Also, remember, they got to be picked up the day after the election. A lot of townships have ordinances that require them to be picked up 24 hours later. Again, put back in somebody's garage until you solve where they're going to go. If, supposing the millage didn't win, of course, they would be used again. But they really need to make sure they're separated from. I had a library director call me one day and she said, "We did it a few years ago before we knew you. I think we did it wrong." She said, "I had the signs here at the library." She went, "Yeah, you did it wrong, but we won't do that again." Anyway, it's very important that the yes is separated from the library itself. Now, if a staff is asked, and many of them are, they'll call, "What do we do? What do we do?" We've been asked what we think. And you just thank them for inquiring and encourage them to support the library. Don't say vote yes, just support the library and let it go at that. Now, that same staff person can leave the library and go out and encourage voters all up and down the sidewalk or the street. But they cannot say vote yes in the library. And that is a tough one to follow. In fact, we have done workshops in libraries where there is a large staff so that the staff make sure there is no confusion on what they can do. A lot of them put bookmarks in the books to identify the election, different things, but those cannot say vote yes either.
Shirley, we have a question in the chat. Um, should the library director and board president use their personal email addresses instead of library email addresses for communications with the Yes Committee?
Another good question. I think it is imperative to not use any emails. I think they should attend the meetings or to be, I suppose it would be okay to use their personal, but yeah, no, they should not use the library one. And I don't think that we ever had that as an issue, Claire. To my knowledge, it has not. Um, Generally, a lot of them I know because I've been at the meetings where the director came to the meeting, and the board chair could definitely come to the meeting out of, dedicated
I,
interest. And so
I,
if
I th- I
Go
think
ahead.
part of it depends on the nature of the communication. So if the library director or the board member is communicating with the S committee over strictly factual things, then that would be fine. I would recommend doing that with the library email, because you want transparency too.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
if it's in the context of the library director volunteering with the yes committee, which can only be done on their own time, not on library time, or the board president volunteering with the yes committee, which can only be done not in context with them being a board member, then like as a private citizen they can do it, then that they would use their personal emails. Like if it's, hey, we need you to volunteer at this corner or here at this time to volunteer to give out leaflets, then that would be personal email. But if it's, we need factual text for this handout, then that would be probably library email. Like if it's something the library director is doing as part of their library director job, then it should be library email. If it's advocacy stuff they're doing as a volunteer for the yes committee, then it would be personal email, because you want to keep those very separate, as you said.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And that is what I was going to say. Some of this might be requested from the Yes Committee for their material. And so, yeah, there is two different issues here. And but no, thank you very, very much for that. And I thought there was another question on there.
There is. So our library is going for its first Millage campaign this year. I just wanted to verify the people in the Yes Committee. The people in the Yes Committee set up the president and treasurer and set up a bank account for the new Yes Committee. So in other words, the Yes Committee handles itself. The Yes Committee manages themselves.
Oh, absolutely. And that has to be done
Yes.
for a submission to the county clerk. Anyway, that all goes to
Yes.
them.
Yeah.
The checking account has to be in the name that has been chosen for the committee. In other words, books for Kent County or whatever they have chosen. Some got very clever names. I'm amazed at what they come up with. And then that is the name used. Then the address is of the treasurer, and they have to get an EIN number or use the treasurer's social security number, which I did for 16 years. In fact, I just now, because we're not going for a millage for more years than I'm going to be here for KDL, so I just closed the account. We kept our account open from one year to the other because we have like 16 friends groups who yearly donated to the account. But now it has been closed. Actually, I had it for 22 years, but 16 that I was the actual treasurer and deputy treasurer, the other six. So it is important that, yes, that all be separate. But the county has all that information on their records. The treasurer files on semi-weekly reports. They file donations up to a certain amount, or they list names up to a certain amount, but they file the entire donations. It used to be you went to the county, you picked up the papers, or they sent you a big packet. Nowadays, everything is on the website. It's so nice and easy, and the reports are filed, and you send them back. And so the treasurer's job is much, much better than it used to be, much easier than it used to be. The treasurer's name is never listed except on the county report because the name of the committee is what is dealt with. Sometimes we would send out envelopes with that return address on. We'd have labels printed. So the treasurer's job for the S committee is much, much easier than it used to be. And more people are willing to be treasurer. And somebody that is good with numbers, somebody that can follow all the pages that the county represents. Some counties have election clerks. I was always great or at freedom to have one in Kent County. Not everyone does, but it's just the county clerk itself. But regardless, those papers get filed. Those are put together by the state of Michigan, but then the county is the one that administers that program.
And I put the link for all the materials there in the chat.
Good, thank you very much. Is there any other questions at this moment?
Nope, that's it for now.
That's it. All right. Well, let me go to the next page here. We need to have all people involved in a millage campaign in the community. The more, the better. And sometimes I think this is a good way to get people involved in their libraries. If they're included in the Yes Committee or have volunteered for the Yes Committee, I've had many people tell me, this was so good. I finally learned how we operate. I finally learned what the library means. A lot of people don't know what Headley is. Headley rollback. What in the world is Headley rollback? There are so many things for the community to learn by millage campaigns. And so I think it's important that we educate the public this way, get them involved, and let them know what the library does, the budget of the library. And of course, we also have to establish a budget for this Yes Committee, which I didn't mention earlier. But it is definitely a part of the education of the community. It makes us all good stewards of our local library. And so one other thing that's very important, the Yes Committee cannot have any meetings at the library. They have to be in another location, be it a township hall, church rooms. I did one recently where they met in the home because they couldn't find a place to meet. And it worked good. We won the millage too by 5 votes, but we won it. And so there is always a location available, but it cannot be at the library. And sometimes that is hard to understand why, but that's because you're advocating for the Yes Committee. And so it's important when they start out that they meet every couple of weeks and get acquainted with what has to be done. Sometimes the committee, depending on the size of the community, if you have large cities within your jurisdiction, you want to do a literature drop, you do that. It's real easy to plan on a Saturday morning, like the summer one in July. Saturday mornings is a good time to do a lit drop with banners you hang on the doorknobs. And that is a way to get the message out. You don't knock on doors, you don't wake up the taxpayer, but you definitely get the information out. And it's just, I've set them up many a time, so I know it's real easy to do. Usually we use a church and in the community, and we have treats and little bags with the drops in, and a group that goes out door to door, and if there's no light on, they just hang it on the doorknob. But another one that we don't do anymore is phoning. Once in a while, somebody say, oh, yeah, no, we want to do phoning. Well, that is fine, but nobody has landlines anymore. And so, and very few people, of course, have the cell phone line, or number. So that is one that we have over the years kind of eliminated, and that, of course, eliminates a chair of that committee too. But there is a number of other ways to get the information to the voters out there. And of course, you can buy the voter list. You can get a list of who voted in the last election. And if it is not the first time that you have gone for a millage campaign, a lot of that information is kept by the prior or same, in some cases, director. And that's important to resurrect and bring up and share any nuances that might come down the road with that last election. Did they win? Did they lose? By how much? A lot of times we go to past information. The Yes Committee also goes to past elections, say the last year or two, of schools, of water department, of the police department, of the fire department. They'll go to different groups, and if they lost the election, why did they lose? How much did they lose? And give the Yes Committee something to build on, which obviously they need to do. So it is important that all of these details, and this should all be done starting 6 to 9 months before the election. And then you've got time to work on it, to go over all the details. And of course, the director of the library by that time will definitely have what they want on the ballot, which is important. How much millage are you going for? What is the amount? What is the what is it going to be used for? I usually encourage the Yes Committee to get into more details. Uh, does the board have a large fund balance? You know, there's other issues. What are we balancing against? What do we need to be aware of? What is definitely needed? Because we want to win this election, but we also want to know any details that is a part of it. So I think the Yes Committee has a huge role to play in this, and most of them are very dedicated. If they have said yes for sure, sometimes I'll go to their first meeting and they don't have a chair, or they don't have this officer. And usually, because I've been around so long, I can listen to people talking, and before I leave, we have the chairs. I'll just say, you sound like a good chair of this committee. Why don't you do this or you do that? One guy told me I'd make a good Army general because I got the committee together, and we filled all the seats. So, but I told him my nickname is Sarge, so that's close enough. Anyway, I think that it is, like I said, very important that you contact all these other groups, let them know what's going on, and make sure that, and of course, there's such a thing as the Yes Committee operating in an off year, which costs a lot more money for the library. But the goal is the same, to win the election. And so that's what has to be kept in mind. And by an off year, we mean at the, like the odd year. This is the on year. Of course, it's a presidential campaign. Somebody asked me this morning, doesn't that make a difference? It's never, ever made a difference. Presidential campaign has nothing to do with libraries. We still need libraries. We still need the ability to go to the library. In 2014, I did 22 millages. I was an election year. I did 22 and we won all 22. So no, it really has nothing to do with libraries. Some people, it's mind over matter, but no, and then, like I said, the odd year, the only difference is that it does cost the library more. However, if there's more millages that year, you all share in the cost. So that helps a lot too. Are there any other questions? Go
Some of
ahead.
the questions that I get, Shirley, are so how, if you're a library director and library board and you're trying to get this process started, especially if you've never done it before, how do you even go about the first step in trying to get a ballot, um, a yes committee, a ballot question committee? Do you snag a, 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 a patron who's there a lot? Do you grab your best friend? Do you go to your friends committee first? What would be that first, so that you don't have a whole lot of involvement in that setup, which the board and the director really shouldn't.
Well, except they need to have the names available for a yes committee because they know who's a big supporter of the library, who wants the library to, uh, be their first and foremost place to go. So quite often the names do come from that group, especially the staff. They know, I know when I meet with people that have volunteered to be on the committee, I'll say, do you know of, homeschooler parents? Well, I don't, but the staff does, and the staff will give you a name, and quite often they'll say yes. In fact, one down near Lansing, the uh, homeschoolers got really involved, and one of them was chair of the board ultimately. But I just think that we need some input from those groups. And I think that it's important because you're working for the board, you're working for the director, and you're working for yourself and the community. So, yeah, no, I get that same question. They'll call and say, yeah, we got to do a millage. How do we get started? And sometimes there's not a lot of time to get started. And so that's where I say, well, it's got to be right now, but yeah, we can do it. So, but yes, no, I appreciate what you're saying, and I thank you for sharing that. I think people forget time, or that sometimes they're not aware. Or another thing that we have had more of lately is directors changing jobs. And they'll be there a little while and they'll say, oh my gosh, we should have had an election this year. And so then all the buttons get pushed and they call you or they call me. So those are things that happen down the road, and that we right away are anxious to help, because as I'm a volunteer too. As a volunteer, we need to put our first foot forward and make sure that the library, stays open. The first question is, what happens if it don't pass?
Right.
That's all, and I'm sure you get a lot of that. And we have to share with them what what
Mhm.
it will take to get it passed, because there's only X number of months left. And we have to give the attorney time to write the ballot language and get, and I really encourage library attorneys to write the ballot language and to get it in a timely manner, like this year for the August primary, when all actually 10 of mine are doing it. One's doing it in May, but that has to be into the county clerk the second Tuesday of May. Well, that's all well and good, but we have to give the attorney time to write it and get it in there. If not, and I had that happen a couple of years ago where it got mailed in too late, and so they couldn't do it. I had two. The clerk was very forgiving on one, but not on the other, and so they had to go in November. So things happen, and we try to be on top of it. And it's a program like this that alerts yes committees, but it also alerts directors on the timing.
Mhm.
I think these things are so important with timing. It's almost like when you're running for office, and I was in public office for 9 years, so I know what that's like. You have to be cognizant of timing, and that is just very important in this day and age. And they're running a business too, and so we have to share in a timetable. And every year, I'm the first to call the county election clerk and say, "Give me the dates for this year," because I'm going to get a lot of questions, and we got to know what's due when.
And
And
right, and that's important. That's really important.
yes, and the fact, well, can I use my municipal attorney? The township will pay for it. Well, I'd rather you didn't. And we've had problems with several of them that write it totally different. They don't know the difference between an increase or do you need one ballot question or two ballot
Mhm.
questions? There's a lot that goes into being a coach besides just coaching the yes committee. So,
I wanted to mention briefly that if you are going to give information to about this person is a homeschool person, make sure you're square with the Library Privacy Act. Um, do not take names out of the library patron database to give that information. Talk to your library attorney if you're not sure. There are circumstances under which you can do it. So just make sure that you are operating in accordance with Library Privacy Act because your staff could be personally liable if they screw it up. So I just wanted to make sure to get that in there. There are a couple of questions here. If the library has a community meeting room available for anyone, can the Yes Committee use that room if it has a separate entrance from the library?
no, absolutely not. Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Oh,
that is very frowned upon.
yeah,
Um, the and I think Anne mentioned last week the pitfall with that.
definitely.
um,
Yeah.
and can the Friends group double as the Yes Committee?
Not entirely. No, in fact, I had that in my notes and I must not have mentioned it. No, it cannot be the friends groups totally. We've had several speakers on that. Ann was one. Dick Butler was one. It cannot be friends groups only. And I've had that question. I'm sure you have too, Claire.
Yeah, friends group have, depending on the friends group and how they're organized, they have restrictions under their 501c3 and Nonprofit
Yeah,
Corporations Act and Charitable Solicitations Organization Act. So they have restrictions too that are different from the library's restrictions, but still can limit them.
right. I would
It
say that. Yeah.
Yeah. If the director communicates regularly and cultivates partnerships with key stakeholders in the community, business and organization leaders, the pool to access for a yes committee is already in place. Oh, that's really good.
Mm-hmm. In its own way, yes, it is. And so some communities we struggle. Other communities, oh, they can't wait to participate. And so that's good. And knowing that generally the length of the election is 10 years. So, oh yeah, I can do it. It's not going to happen again for 10 years, so I'll do it. And that makes a difference too. But anyway,
Can
that
can the library use the emails on patron accounts to send information, informational notification? Wait, can the library use the emails on patron accounts to send any information messages? Um, that's well,
no,
that's a very fine line. So if you're if when you get your patrons get their cards, if you have a note on there that says, can the library send you other information to this email, and you okay it, you don't opt out, then the library can use your email to send library business information. So the library can send information about specific, like business oriented things, or they could send out the factual information on the millage. They cannot give that information to the Yes Committee. If the board or the director is on the yes committee as a personal like citizen, they cannot use that information for the yes committee. You cannot use it for fundraising for the yes committee. You cannot use it. You want to stay as far away from the yes committee as possible. So you have to be extremely careful how you use that information. So I would caution against it
Mhm.
unless it is you're very clear on how you're using that. Um, and again, Melissa says, if they give the library permission, it all depends on what it is you're sending, right? Informational notification. It depends on how the library has defined informational notifications to the members of the public. I would not use it for you don't want to use it for your campaigning. You want to be really careful about that because that line is so easily crossed. You can't say support your library in accordance with the millage campaign. You have to be really, really careful, especially now when people are just looking for reasons to cause libraries trouble. Go ahead, Shirley.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say, there's too many issues out there that people are looking for. And the book banning and all the other things that are going on. No, I would definitely encourage the Yes Committee not to get involved in any of that. And I have never had that surface. So I think that overall, most people are very cognizant of not participating in that manner. And I certainly would not advocate that they do that either. I think there's plenty of other ways that the information gets out there, including, if they just know the time and date to vote. And the reason, and I'll go back to it, the reason that we encourage a mailing for absentee ballots, so many people, when they get the ballot in the mail, they tear it open, especially this year where there's a number of candidates or new candidates. They'll go down, they'll check that list, and they don't go to the bottom of the ballot to vote for the library. And that's the main reason for and actually a postcard will do it. If you want to get a lot of information out, a trifold will do it. I always have samples that I'll give the Yes Committee to use. How to, and of course, another thing is how much money do you have and how much money do you need to save? Some can address the postcards in a committee, some can buy the labels from the clerk of the registrants. So there are a number of things when it comes to the absentee ballot, but that is the mainstay behind advocating to send letters to the absentee voters. Now, you're not going to get everybody because people can register right up till election day, but you will get those that have registered, the automatic registers, by the second week of June, when these letters would go out. By the third week of June at the latest, the absentee ballots are mailed to the registrants. So this is something that, we go over with the Yes Committee in great detail, but that is why it is done that way.
What are your thoughts on the importance of leadership on the Yes Committee, designated one person or a few to control the message?
I think it's important that you're all participant. I don't think one leader, the chair her or his job is to make sure that the committees are meeting, that different chairs are using their time available to do this or do that. But I don't think that there should be one person vocal for everything. And it's not going to be productive if it is. It really isn't.
But you should have like everybody should be saying the same thing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's where the information is the same as what the informational campaign is putting out. That's the same information. They want to be consistent with the yes committee, except the yes committee can encourage them to vote yes. On the street signs, paid for by the yes committee, has to be noted on there. And some people don't see why that's necessary, but that's very necessary. And so there are different rules that way. But yes, and sometimes that's where the honorary chair will come in too and help solve some issues like that. But no, that is definitely um, like you said, everybody on the same page, everybody saying the same thing, everybody thinking the same thing when they're out in the public, and especially handouts. I'm a big proponent of handouts when you're in parades, when you're it's all right to have the candy, but you can't throw it in the parade anyway. You got to walk along the side and hand it out, or the material that is available at the yes table. Now, the library can also have an informational table, and many of my summer millages, they do that. On one side of the street will be the millage for the yes, the other side will be the millage for the library. And people like that, and they um, are very interested in what that material said and don't think they don't compare. I've had that already. Yeah, boy, that was close. Everything's the same. So, and some people do it just to be difficult. But anyway, that is pretty much what is expected of the Yes Committee, their job duties, their priorities, and the priorities of the library itself. And, we're all out there working together. We're all out there as stewards of the library and wanting what is best. But without funding, there is no library, you know. One of the big questions, and I'm sure you get it clear, is what happens if we don't pass? Well, you can do it again, but you can only do it twice in 1 year. So we want to do it right the first time, so we don't have to do it again. And so there is issues involved. And like I said, I've lost one that I'm not interested in helping. In fact, they did do one now on it for 3 years. Of course, I'll have to turn around, start it all over again. But I have lost 5 others, and we went back to the voters and we won the second time. We knew what went wrong the first time. And so, and some of these 147 are, I'm doing one right now, Traverse City by name. This is my third time of doing them. I started that many years ago already. And so 15 of those are repeats, either 1, 2, 3 years. And that is great that they have called and are interested in. And it's always interesting because the boards have changed and you start all over with a new board. How I do it as a coach is when they call me, I Zoom with the board, and then they decide if they want me to coach them or not. And then we graduate to the Yes Committee. And quite often I will go and meet with the Yes Committee. I just did one 3 weeks ago. It was 450-mile round trip. Most beautiful weather and the nicest people in a little town out by here in National Forest. And so it's neat meeting with these people and their dedication to their library. And I'm always learning something too when you go. So it's really neat. I'm a road warrior anyway, so I don't mind being on the road. But thank you very much for those that have participated, and feel free to contact me if you think of something like late afternoon. I return all messages. I never go to bed, so I return all messages and am happy to answer any questions you might have. And like I said, when we do Zoom or when we do the Yes Committee, they have folders on a timetable, on pages of what to do and when to do it. I also have an insert in there on how to win a millage successfully that I wrote myself. And I provide that to every, normally I start out mailing it to the library director. And then I supply it to the, if the board invites me to their location, I give it to every board member. And the same with every Yes Committee member. And so that is how we do it. I also encourage the handouts of the trustee manual that our favorite Claire puts together, and I critique, and I carry that with me to all millage campaigns because I just think everybody needs one of them. So anyway, that is my involvement in Yes Committees and other things that address a successful library. We have 430 of them in Michigan, and I'm learning a few that I didn't even know existed. I'm learning a few more of them now through millage campaigns, but it's interesting. And each one is different. I don't care what you say about libraries. There's no two alike.
That's
And
absolutely.
yeah, I'm sure Claire knows that for sure. So we appreciate Claire and her dedication to the Michigan libraries and our ability to assist in whatever way we can.
Well, thank you, Shirley, and you too, man. You've been so helpful to Michigan libraries. I don't know what they would do without you. Um,
Thank
I'm going I'm going to share my screen and put Shirley's contact information there on the screen, um, so that everybody can go ahead and copy it. I also put it in the chat, so that you can take it out of the chat too. We will also send it in the email that we will be sending you after this is concluded, along with the link to the recording. So I hope that all of you that have villages coming up are very, very, very successful in them. Um, and I want to thank Shirley for being here. We so appreciate that she is taking the time to help us out and do this. I want to put out one more last call for questions. I'm going to go ahead and does anybody have any more questions? Um, okay. Thank you, everyone, again for being here. Really appreciate it. Bye, everybody.
Take care.